In this module, you'll learn how to secure access for Microsoft Entra Agent Identity. Hi, I am Cio Rodriguez. At the end of this module, you should be able to, one, map how AI agents authenticate and identify where conditional access applies. Two, configure conditional access policies as scope to agent identities. And three, control agent access and manage agent identity lifecycle events. What is the business problem here? Contoso Financial Services expanded its use of AI agents to automate compliance checks, deliver regulatory guidance, and respond to routine client questions. However, a security review revealed that several agent identities created months earlier were still active, lacked conditional access protections, and retained more access than necessary. This created a serious governance gap because traditional access controls were designed for human users, not autonomous agents. Without clear controls over how agents authenticate, what resources they can access, and when they should be retired, compromise or overprivileged agents could increase risk, expose sensitive data, and weaken Contoso's overall security posture significantly. Let's get started. To set the foundations about what an agent is and how an agent works, let's look at this picture here. This figure shows three ways that an AI agent can access company resources. The main idea is that Microsoft Entra Conditional Access checks who is actually requesting the token, and that determines which identity the policy should target. So even before we go into conditional access and start creating conditional access, we need to understand the type of agent that needs the conditional access so that we know what kind of policy to create. So on the left, uh, on the left over here, we have the what is called on behalf of or OBO, which is user plus agent. This is a real person that asks the AI agent to do something for them. For example, summarize my email. And we're very familiar with this because we have been using this for quite a while now. The agent is acting on behalf of the user. Conditional access, therefore, evaluates the user, not the agent. You assign the policies to users and groups. So when we go into conditional access, if we want to create a policy for this type of agents, which are the most common, we target the users and groups. Because this is a human user, controls such as MFA, compliant device, that means in tune, right? Location and sign-in risk can all apply to this. So think of this user, agent, Entra ID, and this, and then the resource. And we'll get into Entra ID to take a look at this. The important point is that the user's identity is being protected. Now, on the second here, we have the autonomous agent, agent only. No person is actively using the agent. The agent runs by itself. For example, an agent automatically checks compliance every night. The agent authenticates using its own agent identity. Conditional access should therefore target agent identities. So to create those policies, we need to target those agents. MFA and device compliance don't make any sense in this case because the agent isn't a real person holding a phone or a laptop. So you won't be able to apply MFA. There's other mechanisms to secure them. And again, policies can instead evaluate applicable signals such as location and agent risk. So think of this agent, Entra ID, and then the resource. Now, the important thing here is that the agent itself is being protected. Now, on the right, and the last one over here, is the agent user account. This is an agent acting as a user. So here, the AI agent has an associated user style identity. And this is useful when the agent needs something that requires a user account. For example, it might need its own mailbox or access to a system expecting a user identity. Conditional access evaluates that agent user account. Again, MFA and device requirements generally don't fit because this isn't a human interactively signing in. So think of this agent, um, then agent user account, Entra ID, and then the resource. Now, the important point is that the agent is using a user type identity, but it's still not a human user. So keep this in mind when we go to the demo and we start creating those policies. To put this in context, let's take a look at the agent identities that we have been discussing so far. Here we are at the Microsoft Entra Admin Center at entra.microsoft.com. And this is the familiar, those of you who have worked with Microsoft Entra before, obviously this has been redesigned and there is a lot of new stuff. And we're not going to get into detail in Entrex. We already covered this in other videos, but we are interested here into this agent components. So when you click on agents, here you have an overview of the number of agents, agent identities in your tenant. We can get into all agents we'll do that in a little bit, but so here are the agents, and then there are what's called agent blueprints. And the blueprints are parent templates that power agent identities in your tenant. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And we can see here agents that blueprints that have been created. And here we see, the recent, created agents identity in the last, 30 days, active, you know, enable for access, agents user accounts, and that kind of stuff. So useful information. Now, if we look at the agent identities, so here we have those different identities that we're talking about. Here's the name, when it was created, the status, and then the object ID. And so let's click on one of these. If we click on one of these agent identities, so we see the name of it, the status, the agent identity access. So would view the permissions and enter roles. So you can see that there. In a way similar to what we have been able to do with normal identities before this whole AI came about. We see the sponsors. That's really important. There's no honors. We'll talk about sponsors and honor on future videos. But for now, what we are looking at is the main aspects of a component. So here is the agent blueprint. And again, this blueprint is sort of like a template that we can use to give permissions and controls. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. But Notice that, so this template actually governs 21 agent identities. So, and this is important to understand, because if I want to control access to all these agent identities in a whole, I can apply a policy, directly to the blueprint, not the individual agents. I mean, in many cases, if you apply the policies to individual agents, that's going to be really, it's like, imagine applying a policy to an individual user account. Normally, you apply the policy to a group of users or to all group of users, and we'll discuss that when we go into conditional access policies. So here we see linked agent identities. So you can see the link agents that that are the agents that are linked to that blueprint. Here we control access, the access and sponsors. So you could just go to the you know the blueprint, and actually this is more for the individual agents themselves. We can do that. And we'll take a look at that. Granting consent, whether it is admin. Sometimes if an agent or an identity needs to access an application, an admin can give consent, or the user can have consent itself, depending on what the company. But in this case, this is admin consent, and again, other useful information that we will discuss um, as we move along. But so I wanted to come here to just kind of look at these identities as we start to, actually that's the blueprint there. Uh, but let's just go back into this agents and agent identities. And again, this is where you would, here's the sponsors, and we could also assign owners, and we'll talk about that. Another aspect that I want to talk about here is that because these agents have an identity, so if I wanted to stop or kill one of these agents because maybe something is not going right and we want to investigate, you could disable this agent. You could delete it as well, but you could disable this agent, and then whatever it is that the agent is doing won't be able to do it. But remember that um, the agents that work on behalf of the user, there's no necessary to do that, because what you need to disable is the user account of the user, because the user would ask something to the agent. Now, it could be, of course, you may not want to disable the whole account. It could be that the user created an automated task, and then that agent is doing something on a schedule based on that user, but still the user needs to be logged in. That's the important thing in terms of this, um, you know, users on behalf of the OBA, right? On behalf of user. Anyway, so this is a brief introduction about the agent and agent identities in Entra. In the next demo, we'll go deeper and get into those conditional access. But I wanted to bring you here to just basically, specifically for those of you who um, are not familiar with this new agent identities, you know, what is it that we were discussing when we were talking about this different agents? As we move on to conditional access to work with agents, and if we click on this, we're going to take a look at this and look at conditional access. We need to understand the question is, where do conditional access apply to agents, right? And again, it depends. So conditional access evaluates policies at token issuance time. That means before the agent or the user receives a token for a resource. So before an agent or user can actually use a resource, the assignment scope in a CA policy determines which authentication events triggered evaluation. And then for this on behalf of user workflow, the uh, delegated agents, the OBO, assign the policy to users or groups because the user is the token subject. So evaluation happens against the user's context, location, device, and sign-in risk all apply. Target resources should include the corporate resources that the agent access on the user's behalf. So the policy evaluates every token exchange in the flow. So if we were to create a policy, and I'm going to call this something like block uh, all risky agents. All right. So if I were to do that, when I click on users and agents, so this is what we are talking about. You can apply a policy to users and groups or to agents. But when we are talking about the users, the OBO agents, then this is what you should do, right? Because the agent acts on behalf of the user. And here you could choose either all users or you could choose a selected group of users. And when you select a group of users, you can select either guest or external users, directory roles, etc. And again, this part is familiar for people who have been using conditional access for a while. And then when we comes to resources, you should choose then all resources because remember, so when a user open an agent and tell the agent to do something, let's say that you you have an agent and the agent works, it's a procurement agent and you want to analyze invoices. You open the agent and say, hey, I want you to give me a list of invoices that need to be paid or whatever. So that agent is working on behalf of the user. So whatever the user does or the agent does, it basically based on the permission of the user. So when you create a conditional access for users, that basically that'll do it. In this case, we can, you can have different conditions and stuff like that, like let's say a user risk if you want to do that for risky behavior and that kind of stuff. And this is the normal user. So we're not going to go through the steps on the how to create a conditional access policy. That's not the purpose. The purpose is what kind of identity to choose when you're going to create, uh, you know, uh, a conditional access policies for agent. So this is the first type. This is the first, the OBO. Next, we're going to look at how about if I want to create a conditional access policy for an agent that it's autonomous and that doesn't depend on a user. That's coming next. Continuing where we left off, let's now take a look at, so let's get out of here and we're going to create another policy, right? And so when we click over here, instead of using the users and group now, we are going to look at agents. And here we have some choices to make. For autonomous or application only flows, assign the policy to agent identities. So when you create a conditional access policy, select assignments, users or agents, or workload identity, then you select the agent. That's what we're doing here. And what we should do for this is to select the all agents identity. And for the target, we would choose all resources, right? Another thing important to, and again, for those of you, if you've been working with this, the exclusion is really important, okay? Because What that means is that, especially when you're working with user identities, if you don't want to lock yourself out, you got to be very careful with conditional access policy. And again, this is not a conditional access policy class or lesson. So I'm not going to go into, if you never done a conditional access policy, it's going to be tough to understand. You have work to do. Okay. You have a lot more to read and study. But for those of you who are familiar with conditional access policy, so in the same token, you could exclude agents. And if, maybe you want to apply to all agents, but there are some agents that you want to run, and then you can do that. And in the other token, um, we can talk about, I had a customer, there was a scenario in which the customer they have only two agents in the entire company that they wanted to allow. They want to disable everything. So in that case, what you do is you block all agents and then you exclude the two that you want to allow. Okay. So, but anyway, so we'll discuss that some all the time. So again, here you would choose the all agent identities, and obviously you would choose the all resources, whatever conditions you want to apply. If you want to create, let's say, a policy, for risky agent, then you can do this and choose, high and medium, for risky activities. And then in the controls, you would, if you want to choose the risky activity, what you want to do, you want to block those things. Just keep in mind that yes, you may block legitimate stuff as well, but that's why you should always start a conditional access policies um, report only mode, so that uh, report only mode won't block anything. It will only report, and that's the whole point over here. So you can do that as well. But anyway, so we here because we are discussing this autonomous agents, right? Now, so we saw the OBO agents, and we also saw the autonomous agent, like this application autonomous workflow. But there's another type of agent that we also discuss, and it is the agent's user account flows, or assign the policy to the user account that represents the agent. So what that means is that if we are, let's go back and look at this. In the other choice, again, we're going to choose all agents, but here we're going to choose all agent users. So these are the agents um, that basically act as users. Okay, these are those completely autonomous agents, as we saw in the figure. These are what we call the digital colleague, because again, they may have their own mailbox, their own user account, their own Teams account, and they basically um, work like a regular user. And in the same token, you may want to exclude that kind of stuff. And then you can go through the process and do the same thing. Um, you know, grant access, but then, and uh, you may not choose the multi-factor authentication because this is not a normal user. But there's all the stuff, um, that we can choose to do that. All right. Um, and again, so we're not gonna get into this kind of things in here now, but those are the kind of things that you do. If you want to block it, then you can block and so forth. And in the same token, you want to enable that in report only mode. And that's basically when we originally talked about mapping the agent identities to the policy. That's what we are talking about. That when you create an access policy, rather a conditional access policy for agents, you need to understand how these agents work, right? The three types that we talk about: the OBO, uh, you know, the autonomous application flows, and then the digital colleague kind of agents. So that's basically when we are talking about what we mean when we are talking about this. Another aspect uh, that I would like to discuss here in this lesson is the scaling policy targeting with you know uh, attributes in blueprint. So think about this: as your agent population grows, individually listing agent, serving uh, listing agent service principles in the CA policy becomes operationally sustainable. And there are two approaches that we can use. So again, if we um, create another agent, when we click on this, we can either choose the all agents or all agent users, and we could select a specific agent identities. Now, choosing all agents, unless you know, yes, there are policies that are easy to set up to apply to all agents, but there are certain policies that you got to be careful because you don't want to stop production. I mean, the whole idea is to use agents. You don't want to come in cybersecurity as a cybersecurity administrator, you need to strike a balance between production and security. And to be honest with you, production almost always win. I mean, the business need to continue. Um, the IT and cybersecurity are support functions. You're there to support the business, right? But so here we can choose individual agents to protect. So you can click on this and you're going to see a list of agents, and yeah, you can choose these agents and stuff like that. And if you know exactly the agents that you want to protect, well, that's fine. That you don't. There's no problem with that. That's great. But in an environment where there is thousands of agents, actually we already have uh, policy here that we could. Oh, I didn't um, save it. So we have again. It's difficult when you have too many agents. Um, the sprawl of agents know exactly what you want to do. Another thing that you can do, so yes, we can choose individual agents, but another thing that we can do is the concept of um, uh, you know based on select based on attribute. What that means is that you can apply policy to agent identity based on custom or security attributes that are pre-assigned to them, and you can click on that to see what that means. But um, you would have to create those attributes first. Now, I don't even have the permission to do that. But basically, you use what is called like a custom security attributes that you can use. The rule There's a rule builder that you can use to do that, and attribute-driven targeting uses custom security attributes that are business-specific key value pairs that you define and assign to agent identities in Microsoft Entra. For example, you can define, let's say, data sensitivity attribute with values like, let's say that you have a sensitivity label called confidential or internal, right? So you can say sensitivity and then confidential. And then you write a CA policy condition that blocks any agent identity where the data sensitivity is equals confidential. The point is that yes, you can create a conditional policy to protect sensitive data. So if you want to prevent an agent to basically, or any agent for that matter, right? You may have thousands of agents, but you want to protect high sensitive information from being surfaced by those agents. Then this is where these custom attributes come into place, and they're really useful and really cool. In the same context, let's say that, um, so let me click into selective agents again, and let's go into this agents. So instead of choosing this individual agents, you can choose the agent blueprint principles. Okay. So what that means is that, so if I choose, let's say this, um, whatever, let me just choose one of these. Okay. So if I choose this blueprint, so remember that we said that. So let me go back to um, the agents component over here. Actually, agents, and let's look at agent identities, and let's look at this distribution agent thing. Okay, we said that a blueprint can use multiple agent. So if I click on this blueprint, I see here that this blueprint has 21 identities. Okay, so what that means is that, going back into my conditional access policy, and again, that's not the one, but I could just go ahead and basically look for, actually, this is another, um, oh yeah, this is the one that has all those identity. So we could basically look at this in the blueprint. Let's see if we can find this. There you go. Oh, actually, that's the one that I had already selected anyways. So that's the agent. Okay, so yes, by doing that, then we can apply that to a whole bunch of agents at the same time, and then we don't have to do it in an individual basis. So that's the key point of this here. I do not want to leave this discussion here, this paid discussion here, um, before we actually talk about this autonomous agents. And I'm going to choose actually all user agents. So let's talk. Let's say that we're going to work with autonomous agents. What can we actually do? So I'm going to choose all agent users, and this is in preview. This is not even available yet. But and I doubt that something like this is going to be in the exam. This level of details. But one of the things is that when I create these courses, it's not just to pass the exam. It's to basically learn about the technologies, and also to for actual work in your career. So I usually go beyond what you need to pass the certification. And a lot of people appreciate that. And if you do, please leave me a comment. Anyway, so when we target this thing, actually not even in the target, so we're going to target everything, but the the conditions, they're not too much stuff that you can do. Actually, this is new. You could actually, it looks like you can do a lot more there. Let me see if I'm not. So all agent identities, the all agent users account. Yeah, it seems to be that and these things change all the time, because not too long ago you could come over here and there was not much that you could do. The only thing that you could do, as a matter of fact, for now, the only thing you can do is this you cannot do because that's a in preview. But basically, you could come over here, and the only thing you could do was, um, configure agent risk levels. So I want to see medium and high risky activities, and this is new, and I believe that so when we click on this, okay, and this makes sense because one of the trend now is that there are a lot of local agents. And that's another thing that we didn't discuss, right? So agents could be on the cloud, like SaaS agents, PaaS agents, um, and also we have local agents like Microsoft Scout or Claude or there are so many out there that are local agents, and those local agents need a platform, they need a device to run on. So basically you can say, okay, for these agents that are installed on this type of platforms, and the platform is basically the operating system. That's basically what it means. So um, then I want to do this. So I want to configure this. Select the, oh, it could be on any device, or I could choose a specific devices, depending, but whatever you want to do. So I could choose the platform as well, and filter for device. And if I click on the, so let me choose this, cancel this out. Let me choose this, and then let's go to filter. And interesting. So you could filter for specific devices, also include the filter devices in the list. You could exclude it again. So you can create an expression to go ahead and so device ID, display name, the model. This is really, really cool. And again, this is new. I've not seen that. But anyway, so you can create this kind of policy as well. As always, create this in report only mode. And, conditional access is one of the most effective ways to protect against, rogue agents or agent sprawl, whatever. It's not the only way, but when it comes to the identity centric protection, zero trust for agents, there's a whole new zero trust, a framework for agents, and this is one of the most important things there. As I said before, conditional access is a great way to control access, but it's not the only way. So let's now talk about controlling agent access in life cycle, right? Beyond that, the conditional access. So controlling agent access, extends then beyond conditional access policies to include preventing unauthorized agent creation. That's something that you cannot control with a conditional access policy, and monitoring agent lifecycle events. At Contoso Financial Services, or rather, Contoso Financial Services needs ongoing visibility into which agents exist in their tenant and when new agents are created. Here, we will explore three approaches to disabling agent access and implement monitoring to track um, the agent lifecycle events. We saw one, which is the conditional access block, which again, we can block the authentication for existing and new agents. And when do we use that? When the primary enforcement mechanisms is, the prevents token issuance. That's the main thing. Now, how about if we want to block agent creation per product? So that depends on the product. So you can prevent new agents from being created in a specific product. It reduces the sprawl. And when we're talking about product, we're talking about you can prevent creating users in Copilot or Microsoft Foundry or whatever it is that any platform that you use to create agents should have the ability to stop that. And another thing is disabling the individual agents. So you can deactivate a specific agent identity. And again, we saw uh, that, how to do that in Microsoft Entra as well. So, but these are the three, and we're going to be looking at tools. So we just saw conditional access. Um, in a future video, we're going to talk about Microsoft Agent 365, which is a control plane for agents. And we can do tons of things with Agent 365, but we'll talk a lot more about that in its own session. almost forgot to take you to the um, ID protection. So if you have ID protection, if you have the license for that, we can come here and take a look at risky agents and also risky workloads identity. But since we're working with agents, um, instead of looking at just user accounts and workloads, so now here we have the risky agents reports, and we can take a look at that. So if we had any activity, any risky activity by agents, we can come over here and we could investigate that as well. So not just user accounts, but the agents themselves. And this is really cool. And actually, you can create from directly from here either a user risk or a sign-in risk policy that can also apply to to mainly the users. So the agents that work on behalf of the users will be affected by this. So, but not the autonomous agent, but at least you can see all uh, the risky events. So if you go to the dashboard, you'll see the whole thing in there, and then from there, you can call here to risky agents. Didn't want to leave this section before explaining that piece over there. All right, so going back to our guide, so we are here at the Microsoft Certified Cloud and AI Security Engineer Associate. Those of you who have been following, we are on this learning path. Remember that there are 12 of these, and we are in the Implement Security for AI learning path. And this learning path, as I said before, has it's a long one, but we were looking at secure access for Microsoft Entra Agent ID. Okay, so I would encourage you to, for more reading and to expand, to come to this learning modules and do some reading. Next, we are going to cover this module, the Analyze AI Identity Risks using Microsoft Defender XDR. That's what we're coming next. In summary, and to conclude, in this module, Contoso Financial Services improved the security of its Microsoft Entra Agent Identity environment by moving from loosely governed AI agents to a more controlled and repeatable security model. At the beginning, several agents had been created months earlier and were still active with permissions that exceeded their intended purpose. The team learned that these agents authenticate non-interactively by using the OAuth 2.0 client credentials flow, which means that they can't respond to human-based controls such as multi-factor authentication or device compliance. Because of that, the most effective protection comes from conditional access policies designed specifically for workload identities, allowing the organization to evaluate and control how agent identities receive access to Microsoft services. The module then focuses on applying that knowledge through governance and access control. The team created conditional access policies as scope to agent service principles, first using the report only mode to test the effects before enforcing them. They targeted a specific Copilot Studio agent identities and applied conditions based on risk business need. And they also used the block policies for inactive or overprivileged agents, which protects the resources while preventing the identity for audit purposes. And finally, the team established a lifecycle process by controlling no agent creation, monitoring. Uh, that means, at the service principal, audit events, and performing periodic access review so that continued agents must be regularly validated.